The underestimated species. Commander Darius Vega stood before the curved obsidian table of the Galactic Hegemony Council, the holographic representatives of 27 alien civilizations regarding him with expressions ranging from boredom to thinly veiled contempt. After 6 years as Earth's representative, he'd grown accustomed to being treated like a child who had wandered into an adult's conversation. The human wishes to speak, announced High Counselor Zintal, her translucent blue skin rippling with bioluminescent patterns that betrayed her impatience. Standing nearly 3 meters tall, the Zintari representative's eyes, all four of them, blinked in sequence. Let us hope it will be mercifully brief. Soft chitters of amusement echoed through the chamber. Darius maintained his composure, though his jaw clenched momentarily. Earth has completed the atmospheric stabilization of Europa's research outpost, he stated evenly. We lost 16 specialists to unexpected methane eruptions during the process, eruptions that weren't mentioned in the briefing materials we received. Such unfortunate casualties, said Ambassador Gorkson of the Peloran Confederacy, his leathery face resembling a perpetual sneer. But your species does seem to excel at throwing bodies at problems until they're solved. More laughter rippled through the chamber. Darius kept his face neutral, though his knuckles whitened as he gripped the edge of his podium. It had been 175 years since humanity had developed faster-than-light travel and been welcomed into the hegemony. What had initially seemed like humanity's greatest triumph had rapidly revealed itself as something else entirely. Humans were useful, expendable laborers willing to take risks the older, more evolved species considered beneath their dignity. The methane eruption patterns suggest deliberate omission from our mission briefing, Darius continued. This is the third consecutive operation where critical safety information was withheld from human teams. High Counselor Zintal's phosphorescent markings flashed in a pattern that translated to dismissive amusement. Commander Vega, your species' paranoia is well documented. Perhaps if humans spent more time analyzing data and less time rushing headlong into danger, your casualties would decrease. We analyzed the data we were given, Darius countered, which was incomplete. The hegemony moves to dismiss this complaint, interjected Ambassador Gorkson. And furthermore, we have a new assignment that seems particularly suited to human capabilities. Of course they did, Darius nodded stiffly, knowing the pattern all too well. 4 hours later, he stood in the transport bay of his ship, the S-Pathfinder, watching as the last of his crew boarded. Lieutenant Olivia Jansen, his tactical officer, approached with a data pad. That bad, huh? She asked, her weathered face creased with concern. The usual, Darius replied, accepting the pad and scanning the mission parameters. Mysterious energy readings at the edge of the Kuiper belt. 3 Zintari probes disappeared investigating it. They've graciously offered humanity the opportunity to solve the problem. How thoughtful of them, Olivia replied dryly. Chief Engineer Marcus Powell looked up from his diagnostic panel, his dark skin gleaming under the bay lights. One day they'll push us too far. That day isn't today, Darius replied, though privately he wondered how much longer humans would tolerate their treatment. We have our orders, let's prepare for departure. The journey to the edge of the solar system took 11 days. Darius used the time to assemble a specialized team from Earth's brightest minds. Dr. Lyra Nakamura, a quantum physicist whose theories on dimensional boundaries had earned her both acclaim and ridicule from the scientific community. Jamal Hassan, a veteran of 17 high-risk hegemony missions and an expert in xenotechnology. Nikolai Petrov, a former Russian Special Forces soldier whose combat experience in the Mars Rebellion had saved hundreds of lives. Together with the Pathfinder's crew, they prepared as thoroughly as possible for whatever awaited them at the coordinates provided by the hegemony. Commander, Dr. Nakamura called from her workstation on the bridge, I've been analyzing the telemetry from the Zintari probes before they went dark. There's something the hegemony didn't tell us. Darius wasn't surprised. What did they miss? The energy signature shows fractal patterns consistent with design technology, not natural phenomena, she explained, her eyes bright with excitement and apprehension. If I'm reading this correctly, we're approaching something artificial and immensely old, possibly millions of years old. Older than the Zintari? Jamal asked, leaning over her shoulder to examine the readings. Older than the entire hegemony, Lyra confirmed. This predates every known civilization by orders of magnitude. Darius felt a cold weight settle in his stomach. and they sent us to investigate without sharing this detail. They sent us to disappear, Nikolai said flatly, checking the charge on his particle rifle. Like those probes. The anomaly came into view on the Pathfinder's sensors 3 days later. It resembled a spherical distortion in space, like a perfect bubble floating in the void. Light bent around its edges in impossible ways, creating a shimmering halo effect that the ship's visual systems struggled to process. Life support at full capacity, Olivia reported. All defensive systems online. Maintain distance at 50,000 kilometers, Darius ordered. Dr. Nakamura, what are we looking at? Lyra's hands moved rapidly across her console, her expression one of wonder. It's a contained pocket of altered spacetime, some kind of bubble where physical laws are being locally rewritten. I've never seen anything like it. Can we send a probe? Darius asked. Marcus shook his head. Any technology we have would be destroyed instantly by those energy gradients. Even hegemony tech couldn't survive it. Then how do we investigate? Jamal asked. Before anyone could answer, the anomaly pulsed, expanding slightly. A wave of energy washed over the Pathfinder, momentarily disrupting all systems before they hummed back to life. It scanned us, Lyra whispered, staring at her readings. That wasn't an attack, it was gathering information. A second pulse followed, stronger than the first. The ship's communications system activated without command, and a voice spoke, not through the speakers but directly into the minds of everyone aboard. Humans at last. The bridge crew exchanged shocked glances. Darius found his voice first. We are representatives of Earth and the galactic hegemony. The hegemony still exists, and still sends others to do its dangerous work. Some patterns persist across eons. You know of the hegemony? Lyra asked, stepping forward. I knew their ancestors when your kind first looked to the stars with wonder. I have waited, watching and testing. Now you have come. The anomaly pulsed again, and a pathway seemed to open within it, a tunnel of light extending into unknown depths. Enter if you dare, the voice challenged, or return to your masters with nothing as they expect. Darius looked at his team. The rational choice would be to retreat and report their findings. That's what the Zintari would do, preserve themselves at all costs. What do you think? He asked Lyra. She hesitated, then smiled. When have humans ever backed down from discovering the unknown? Nikolai checked his weapon. I didn't come all this way to turn around. Jamal nodded in agreement. The hegemony already considers us expendable, might as well prove we're also unpredictable. Darius took a deep breath and gave the order. Lieutenant Jansen, take us in. Slow approach, continuous sensor sweep. As the Pathfinder crossed the threshold into the anomaly, Darius couldn't help wondering if they were proving the hegemony right about human recklessness, or if that very quality might lead to something the ancient, cautious species had missed in their millennia of calculated existence. The ship shuddered as it entered the distortion field. Warning lights flashed across control panels as systems struggled to adapt to the altered physics within the anomaly. Stabilize, Darius commanded. Engineering, give me a status report. Power fluctuating but holding, Marcus called back. Whatever's happening, the ship is adapting to it somehow. The tunnel of light surrounded them completely now, creating the disorienting sensation of moving both incredibly fast and standing perfectly still. Then, with a final pulse of energy, they emerged into what appeared to be normal space, except nothing about it was normal. Before them floated an immense structure unlike anything humanity had ever encountered. A massive lattice of interconnected geometric forms stretched across thousands of kilometers, each segment pulsing with internal light that shifted through colors humans had no names for. At the center hung a perfect dodecahedron that seemed to both absorb and emit light simultaneously. My God, Lyra whispered, her face illuminated by the structure's glow. It's beautiful. And artificial, Jamal added, his instruments gathering data at maximum capacity. This is technology millions of years beyond the hegemony's capabilities. The mental voice returned, stronger now that they were closer to its source. Your vessel requires maintenance. Approach docking terminal 7. As if responding to the command, a section of the structure reconfigured itself, creating an opening perfectly sized for the Pathfinder. Light emanated from within, guiding their way. Could be a trap, Nikolai warned, his hand never straying far from his weapon. Darius considered their options, which were painfully few. The anomaly behind them had closed, cutting off their retreat. Their power reserves would sustain them for weeks, but eventually they would need to make a decision. "We'll approach cautiously," he decided. "Olivia, keep defense systems on standby. Whatever this is, it called to humans specifically. Let's find out why." As the Pathfinder moved toward the designated docking area, their systems suddenly restored themselves completely, power levels returning to optimal capacity without explanation. "It's repairing us remotely," Marcus reported with amazement. "Technology sufficiently advanced to manipulate our systems like they're toys." The ship eased into the docking terminal, connecting seamlessly with the alien structure. Atmosphere readings indicated conditions perfectly suited for human life, suspiciously so, as if the environment had been adjusted specifically for them. "Prepare for disembarkation," Darius ordered. "Standard exploration protocols. Nikolai, you're armed, but weapons stay holstered unless absolutely necessary." As the airlock opened, revealing a corridor of shifting geometries that seemed to defy Euclidean mathematics, Darius felt a strange sense of destiny. For centuries, humanity had been the hegemony's tools, disposable, useful only for their willingness to take risks. Now they stood on the threshold of something the hegemony's caution had prevented them from discovering. Whatever waited within this ancient structure would change everything. The only question was whether humanity was ready for what would come next. "Welcome," the voice echoed in their minds as they stepped onto the alien floor. "You have questions. I have waited eons to provide answers." "Who are you?" Darius asked, his voice steady despite the awe overwhelming him. "I am what remains of those you might call the architects. And you humans are more important to the future of this galaxy than you could possibly imagine." The awakening. The corridor before them seemed to stretch into infinity, its walls shimmering with patterns that resembled star maps and mathematical equations beyond human comprehension. As Darius led his team deeper into the structure, the patterns shifted, responding to their presence like a living entity. "It's watching us," Nikolai murmured, his military training evident in the way his eyes constantly scanned for threats. "I observe all who enter," the voice confirmed in their minds. "Few species possess the neural architecture to perceive me fully. Humans, surprisingly, are among them." The corridor opened into a vast chamber that defied spatial logic. Though it appeared no larger than a small auditorium from the outside, within it stretched for kilometers. At its center floated a crystalline dodecahedron, roughly the size of a human head, pulsing with energy that cycled through colors both familiar and utterly alien. "The Nexus," the voice explained, "the repository of all that remains of my civilization." Dr. Nakamura approached slowly, her scientific curiosity overcoming her caution. "What happened to your people?" "Time, evolution, transcendence. We did not die, we transformed beyond physical form. I remain as caretaker, waiting for those who might inherit what we left behind." Darius stepped forward. "And you believe that could be humans? The hegemony considers us primitive, barely worth acknowledging except as convenient labor." The chamber resonated with what felt like amusement. The Zentari and their allies judge by age, not potential. They have existed for thousands of your years, evolving toward logic and caution to the exclusion of creativity and adaptability. They have plateaued while you are just beginning. Jamal was examining his scanner readings with increasing excitement. "Commander, this technology is operating on principles we've only theorized. Quantum manipulation at a macroscopic level, directed consciousness interfaces. It's beyond anything in the hegemony's archives." "Approach the Nexus," Dr. Nakamura, the voice invited. "Your mind is particularly receptive." Darius moved protectively toward Lyra. "Wait, what will happen to her?" "Knowledge, understanding, possibility. The Nexus responds differently to each consciousness. For humans, with your unique neural plasticity, it offers potential." Lyra looked at Darius, her eyes reflecting the pulsing light of the crystal. "I need to know, Commander." After a moment's hesitation, he nodded. Lyra stepped forward and placed her palm against the crystalline surface. The effect was immediate, her body tensed, eyes widening as light coursed up her arm and across her face. She didn't appear to be in pain. Rather, her expression showed pure revelation. For nearly a minute, she remained connected to the Nexus. When she finally pulled away, tears streamed down her face. "Lyra," Olivia moved to support her as she staggered backward. "Are you okay?" I saw, she whispered, struggling to translate the experience into words. Everything, the hegemony, the Centauri, they've been deliberately suppressing Earth's development. They fear what we might become. The Centauri recognized human potential centuries ago, the voice confirmed. You adapt faster, innovate more readily, and take necessary risks. They orchestrated your admission to the hegemony specifically to control your evolution, relegating humans to dangerous but technologically simple tasks to prevent advancement. The implications struck Darius like a physical blow. They've been sabotaging us deliberately, all these missions, all these deaths. A calculated strategy to keep humanity dependent and underdeveloped, while exploiting your natural capabilities. Lyra's eyes refocused, determination replacing her initial shock. But that's not all I saw. The architects left behind more than knowledge. They left power, the ability to manipulate matter, energy, even spacetime itself. And humans are neurologically compatible in ways the Centauri are not. Before Darius could process this revelation, alarms blared throughout the chamber. The structure trembled slightly. "We have visitors," the voice announced. "The anomaly has reopened." Olivia's communicator activated. "Commander, a Centauri warship just appeared through the rift. They're demanding to know what we found. High Counselor Zintal herself is commanding them." The team exchanged alarmed glances. "How did they find us so quickly?" Marcus asked. Lyra's expression darkened with understanding. "They planted tracking technology in our ship. They've been monitoring us all along, waiting for humans to do what they couldn't, locate this place and activate its systems." "What now?" Nikolai asked, his hand moving to his weapon. Darius made a quick decision. "We need to return to the Pathfinder. We have to warn Earth about what we've discovered." "I cannot close the pathway," the voice stated, "but I can give you time to escape. The knowledge Dr. Nakamura carries may be your people's only hope when the reckoning comes." "What reckoning?" Darius demanded. "What's coming?" But the presence seemed to fade, the lights in the chamber redirecting to illuminate a path back to their ship. With no choice, they ran. As they reached the Pathfinder, sensors detected the Centauri warship docking at another terminal of the massive structure. "Everyone aboard now," Darius ordered, rushing to the controls. "Lieutenant Jansen, prepare for immediate departure." They launched from the docking bay just as the first Centauri troops appeared in pursuit. The massive warship turned to follow as they accelerated toward the reopened anomaly. "They're hailing us," Olivia reported. "Put it through," Darius commanded. High Counselor Zintal's face appeared on the view screen, her bioluminescent patterns flashing with barely contained rage. "Commander Vega, you will surrender your vessel immediately. You have trespassed on a site of immense importance to galactic security." Darius couldn't suppress a bitter laugh. "Trespassed? You sent us to investigate this anomaly." "Not to enter it," Zintal snapped. "Return Dr. Nakamura to us and the rest of your crew may live." Ice formed in Darius's veins. They already knew about Lyra's connection to the Nexus. "How did you?" "We have been monitoring this sector for millennia," Zintal interrupted. "Your primitive ship systems are easily accessed. Now surrender or be destroyed." Darius cut the transmission and turned to his crew. They know about Lyra, about what she experienced. His mind raced through their limited options. "Marcus, can you push our engines beyond safety protocols? We need to reach the anomaly before they can intercept us." "I can give you about 120% for maybe 5 minutes before things start melting," the engineer confirmed. "Do it," Darius ordered, "and Olivia, send an encrypted transmission to Earth. Include everything we've learned about the structure and the Centauri's deception. Use my personal authentication code." As the Pathfinder accelerated toward the shimmering rift, the Centauri warship launched its first volley of energy weapons. The ship rocked violently as one beam grazed their shields. "Shield generators failing," Marcus called from engineering. "One more direct hit and we're done." Darius took manual control of the ship and executed a desperate maneuver. Cutting thrust entirely, he allowed their vessel to drop below the plane of pursuit as the confused Centauri ship overshot their position. Then he fired all engines at maximum power, shooting directly for the anomaly. "They're coming around," Olivia warned, weapons charging again. "Too late," Darius replied as their ship plunged into the shimmering light. The familiar disorientation followed, systems failing temporarily before they emerged back in normal space. The Centauri warship appeared moments later, still in pursuit but now in Earth's territory. Three human defense cruisers immediately detected the unauthorized entry and moved to intercept. Commander Vega, this is Admiral Juliet Chen, a new voice announced over the comm system. Your transmission has caused quite a stir. Return to Earth Command immediately. We'll handle the Zintari vessel. Under the protection of Earth's fleet, they finally returned home. What they found there shocked them. Earth was in turmoil. Somehow, details about the ancient structure and the Zintari's true motives had leaked to the public. Protests filled the streets of every major city, with signs denouncing the hegemony and the centuries of exploitation. Humanity Rising read the largest banners. When they landed at Earth Command headquarters in Geneva, Darius and his team were immediately escorted to a secure conference room where Earth's highest military and civilian leaders had gathered. At the center of the table sat Director General Ileana Okafor, her expression grave as she reviewed reports. Commander Vega, Dr. Nakamura, she greeted them. Your discovery has ignited a powder keg. Madam Director, Darius acknowledged with a salute. We had no intention of causing a diplomatic crisis. Perhaps it was long overdue, she replied. The hegemony is demanding we turn over Dr. Nakamura and all information about the structure. They've sent 6 additional warships to our system to emphasize their request. And your response? Nikolai asked directly. I told them Earth is no longer accepting orders, the Director General said firmly. 175 years of being the galaxy's expendable workforce ends today. A murmur of approval went through the room, but Lyra stepped forward, her face troubled. There's something you need to know, she said urgently. When I connected with the Nexus, I saw potential futures. Using this technology as a weapon against the hegemony leads to devastation on an unimaginable scale. Not just for the Zintari, but for humanity as well. The Director General frowned. Are you suggesting we surrender this advantage after centuries of mistreatment? I'm suggesting we use it wisely, Lyra replied. The knowledge contained in the Nexus could transform our civilization without firing a shot. Clean energy, faster than light travel without current limitations, medical technology beyond anything we've imagined, all within our reach. Before the Director General could respond, an aide rushed into the room. Madam Director, there's been an incident at Research Station Omega. Everyone tensed. That was where the initial data from their mission was being analyzed. What kind of incident? She demanded. An attack, the aide replied grimly. A radical group calling themselves Terra Ascendant has taken control of the facility. They're demanding immediate access to all information about the Nexus technology. Darius exchanged alarmed glances with his team. Who's leading them? The Director General asked. A man named Victor Crane. He's broadcasting his manifesto worldwide. A nearby screen activated, showing the face of a man with cold eyes and a methodical manner. People of Earth, Crane began, his voice eerily calm. For too long, we've been the servants of ancient, decadent species who fear our potential. We have discovered a power that could elevate humanity to its rightful place among the stars. No more will we beg for scraps from the hegemony's table. Today, we seize our destiny. He's insane, Darius murmured. He has no idea what he's dealing with. Unfortunately, he has millions of supporters, Admiral Chen said grimly. This sentiment has been building for decades. The discovery of the Nexus was just the catalyst. Lyra stepped forward. If they attempt to replicate the Nexus technology without proper understanding, they could create a quantum cascade that would ripple through our entire solar system. Billions would die. Then we need to stop them, Darius said firmly, before they doom us all. It may already be too late, the Director General said, pointing to another screen. It showed the Zintari fleet growing in number, now joined by ships from other hegemony species. High Counselor Zintal's face appeared on the main communications channel. People of Earth, your actions constitute a direct threat to galactic security. Surrender all data regarding the Architect's technology immediately or face annihilation. They're afraid, Lyra realized aloud. For the first time in centuries, the Zintari are genuinely afraid of humans. Darius looked from the image of the gathering hegemony fleet to Crane's continuing broadcast. Two sides pushing toward a confrontation that could end in disaster, with humanity caught in the middle. We've spent centuries being mocked for our courage, he said quietly. Now we need to find a different kind of bravery, the courage to step back from the brink. He turned to the Director General. Give me a chance to resolve this before we pass the point of no return. How? She asked. By showing both sides what the architects truly intended, he answered, looking at Lyra. The Nexus wasn't meant to be a weapon, it was meant to be a gift, but only to those wise enough to use it properly. With the Director General's reluctant approval, Darius implemented his desperate plan. While Earth forces moved to secure Research Station Omega against Terra Ascendant, he took the Pathfinder back toward the anomaly, accompanied only by Lyra. The Hegemony fleet moved to intercept them, weapons primed. This is suicide, Lyra whispered as they approached the blockade. Maybe, Darius acknowledged, but sometimes the most human thing we can do is surprise everyone, including ourselves. He opened a channel that broadcast simultaneously to the Hegemony Fleet, Earth Command, and even Victor Crane's forces. This is Commander Darius Vega. I'm returning to the Architect's structure with Dr. Nakamura. Anyone who wishes to understand the truth is welcome to follow unarmed and with peaceful intent. The choice is yours. Without waiting for a response, they plunged toward the anomaly. To everyone's shock, the Zintari weapons remained silent. One by one, representatives from both the Hegemony and Earth followed them through. Within the ancient chamber, before the glowing nexus, Darius watched as Lyra placed her hands upon the crystal once more. This time, the energy that flowed from it expanded outward, enveloping everyone present in a shared vision of understanding. They saw the architect's journey, not one of conquest or dominance, but of growth and eventual transcendence. They witnessed the potential futures that branched from this moment. Paths of destruction if the technology was weaponized, and paths of unprecedented advancement if used with wisdom. When the vision faded, High Counselor Zintal's luminescent patterns had shifted to a pattern never before seen by humans, one of humility. We were wrong, she admitted, her voice no longer carrying its usual condescension. About humanity, about our own place in the galaxy. Victor Crane, who had been brought in restraints, fell to his knees. I didn't understand, he whispered. The power, it was never meant for domination. Understanding, the voice of the architects echoed through the chamber, the first step toward wisdom. 3 months later, Darius stood in a newly constructed chamber in Geneva, where representatives from Earth and the Hegemony gathered to sign the Nexus Accords. The agreement recognized humanity's full and equal standing among galactic civilizations and established a framework for the responsible development of the architect's technology. The humiliation was over, not through violence or revenge, but through the very qualities the Hegemony had exploited: humanity's curiosity, adaptability, and willingness to take risks when necessary. As he watched Earth's Director General and High Counselor Zintal clasp hands, 4 fingers meeting 5 in a symbolic gesture, Darius reflected on how close they had come to destruction. The line between righteous anger and self-destruction was thinner than anyone had realized. Not exactly what you expected when you entered that anomaly, is it? Lyra asked, joining him at the observation window. Darius smiled slightly. I expected we'd either die or find something valuable enough to bargain with. I never expected we'd find something valuable enough to change everyone's minds. Including our own, she added. Revenge would have been easier. Easier, yes, better, he shook his head. The architects transcended physical form. Maybe we just transcended something equally limiting, the need to dominate rather than understand. Below them, the new joint research facility hummed with activity as human scientists worked alongside Zintari, Peloran, and a dozen other species, all studying different aspects of the Nexus technology. The chamber's centerpiece was a small crystalline fragment, a gift from the architects, the beginning of a new era. Humanity had broken, yes, but not in the way anyone had expected. They had broken free of both their subservient role and the cycle of resentment it had created. It wasn't surrender and it wasn't conquest. It was something new entirely. Something distinctly human.